Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the Jagdpanzer IV. It's the Tier 6 German tank destroyer. It's located on the north spawn of Kharkov and it's under the command of General Disturbance. Yes, it's one of my replays. Took place, I think it was before Christmas. And well, this is quite a good replay. Mainly because it introduces some players to this tank destroyer who may not have tried it before. This is the next tank destroyer up from the Stug 3G, the Sturmgeschütz 3 Ausrüstung G. Now, Heinz Guderian, who's in charge of the Panzer forces, wasn't too particularly happy about this tank being built, this tank destroyer, because he actually wanted the Panzer IVs, the hull that this tank destroyer is made from, rather than the Jagdpanzer IV. He wanted to actually build more tanks and let these tank destroyers like the Stug 3G carry on doing their job instead. When you notice, I came down from the hill because I noticed the enemy were actually making a quick dash towards the cap, and I thought from this low position I could probably get more hits on the enemy. Knocked a tree over there, but I'm not so sure the enemy's concentrating on me at the moment. Mainly they might be concentrating on the guys who've gone up the hill. We've got a pair of heavy tanks sitting on the hill to my right. A heavy tank number 6 and an IS, and they're totally out of position. Those guys should have gone into the housing block on the 7 and 8 line. Instead, what they've done is they've gone out to the field and they're, well, wasted out here. So I'm rather disappointed because this means that it puts more pressure on everyone else to stop the enemy from getting a quick win. Okay, we've got a Skoda T25's come up the trench. He's right at the end of it at the moment. And my teammates in the Arty are spotting him, but they're very vulnerable. And they've probably been seen. And it won't be long before they get wiped out. The Skoda's pulled back down the trench again because the Super Hellcat's gone in after him. And the Arty are starting to move. I think they've suddenly realised, yeah, if they've been seen, they're going to get counter-batteried. And the Skoda's running for all his life now because he doesn't want a 90mm round into him. In fact, the Super Hellcat's been hit by the enemy Arty instead, because the enemy Arty considered him a greater threat, and our Arty have managed to relocate. As you can see, there's one of them just over there, the Hummel. And I've decided I'm going to go back and try and stop these guys from getting close to our cap. So what can I tell you about the Jagdpanzer IV? Well, I've already mentioned it. Actually, it was made from the German Mark IV Panzer. That's why it's got 8 row wheels. It's basically a much more flat tank destroyer than the lower profile tank destroyer, I should say, than the Stug. It's got its gearbox up front, the transmission, which means that if you get a shot in your lower plate, you might damage the engine, which means you won't be moving about very fast. So you want to try and avoid getting shot in the lower plates if you can help it. Okay, I've taken up a position at the end of that trench, anticipating there's more enemy tanks going to be coming up this way, and the Type 64's now gone down. This is not going too well for us. We're down 3 tanks already, and I think partially, that's down to those heavy tanks being out of position. We lost the heavy tank number 6. He's gone. I'm afraid they are a bit noobish. The IS is a noob as well. How can I tell that? Well, look at their colour. They are red, a bit tomatoey. I don't always use that as a guide, but sometimes you obviously realise that if somebody's out of position, they shouldn't be there. And I'm telling the Hummel, move back, go over to the west side of the map, get away from the cap area because you are in danger if you stay where you are. In fact, now the enemy tanks are starting to come up, and I'm expecting tanks to come through that gap towards our cap. Of course, we can see that there's some tanks on the circle, and they're going to be coming up that road any second and going through the gap where I'm pointing towards. And that's why I was telling the Hummel to get the hell out of there, go somewhere to the west where you'll be safe. Even if there are enemy tanks the other side of the hill, they would be safer there than... And the IS has turned up. just as I expected, enemy tanks have arrived. And my first shot is into the IS tracks him. Now I'm using the top gun, which is the 88mm, which is capable of doing 220 alpha. Normal reload time about 5 seconds. I've got it down to 4.54. Now you can see it has got fairly good penetration, but it's the alpha damage. Now you can fit the 75mm Pak 42 gun, which does 135 alpha, and is quite a fast firing gun as well. It's the sort of gun that I think Stug drivers would have loved to have had. Okay, IS-2 turns up. The IS is dead. He was taken out by our T-34-100. There's the IS. First shot goes into the tracks. I'm just merely acting as a deterrent at the moment to stop them coming through that gap, and constantly turning around to check and make sure that the enemy's not coming up behind that hill. The Arty is safely behind me at the moment, except of course of that Hummel, who's still a little too far over to the east than I would like. I think he's got the message. I think he's now pulling back a bit every now and then. IS is still there. We're one tank up on the enemy at the moment. They seem to have got rid of most of the attackers that attack the hill to my right. And I get around into the tracks of the IS-2 and hold them in place. That one went to the right, bit of dispersion there. And that one didn't penetrate the armour, wrong angle. We've lost the Hummel, and we've also lost our AMX-13F3, so now we've lost all our Arty. They would have been safer if they'd actually gone over to the other side, to the west side. And you can just see the top of a Super Hellcat up on top of the hill. Now luckily I haven't been spotted so far, but I have got sort of like 2 bushes in front of me. Plus of course I've got other teammates who are spotting those guys over to the east. I'm just anticipating that that Super Hellcat's going to come over the hill any second. Now the fire rate on this gun is actually better on both guns, the 88mm and the 75mm. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but it is better than on the Stug 75mm and on other tank destroyers with an 88. So it's actually quite reasonable. It's just the 88mm doesn't really have the penetration. The 75mm Pak 42 though does. It's got really good penetration. And we've lost all the guys up on the hill. I've got Nashorn over to my right, a bit further over to the west. Still got that Super Hellcat up on the hill. The IS is sitting to my right at the moment, in those just behind those trees. And we're now 1 tank down on the enemy, but they do have 2 Arty. And somebody is capping. It's the Su-152. My first shell goes straight through him, 232, which is a high roll. Second shell goes in, 224, high roll. One next shot will kill him, and it does. So that's my first kill. But there's still 3 enemies out there, and there's only 2 of us left. The Nashorn and myself. The IS is gone, taken out by the Su-152. There's the Super Hellcat. That's the last enemy tank they've got. My first shell on him misses. But I'm backing down the hill, facing towards him, hoping that either I can get him or the Nashorn gets him. This tank destroyer's got a 6-degree gun depression, which isn't great. Oh, artillery round came in behind me, so he probably knew where I was. And there's the Hellcat, and he's going after the Nashorn. I fire 1 round in, miss. Locked on. Oh, they got the Nashorn. The Super Hellcat got him. But I'm going to drive straight in and take out the Super Hellcat. There you go. And that means now it's just me and 2 Arty on the enemy team. I did take a round from the Super Hellcat, but he's out of the equation. And now it's just me and 2 Arty. One's an M44, the other one's an Su-8. And there's the Arty rounds coming in a little too late. And they don't know where I am now. Okay, I'm just going to drive straight down the 1 line towards the enemy. Of course, I feel the pressure at this moment because obviously I have to perform against 2 Artys, which I know are very good. And the rest of my team are saying go cap. I'm not so sure that's a wise decision, actually. Not yet. There's 5 minutes still to go, so there's enough time to me to hunt the Arty. I actually did 833 hit points of damage. They're saying, no, kill the clicker. Yes, I don't think they realise who I am. They wouldn't say that. They did. But no, I've got just under 2k worth of spotting by spotting those enemy tanks that are coming in from the east. The others people have said, no, don't cap. They're quite right. It's not the best decision to cap. If I did cap, then one of the enemy would go up the other end and start capping at that end, whilst the other one got resets down this end, and then they would win. So the best thing for me to do is just clear out this area first, make sure there's nobody here. No, nobody here. Okay, so just make my way along the K row, take out all the areas where I would expect an enemy RT to be hiding in amongst the bushes. No sixth sense gone off yet, so nobody's seen me. If I can get one of them, then it's just to hunt the other one down. Oh, there's the SU-8. I locked on. One round in. It's a low roll for 214. He's not reacting, and he's out the game. So it's me and the M44 now. One on one. Mano on mano. I'm not going to cap. There's no point in capping at this stage. It won't help. And the enemy's capping at the other end, so I know where he is. And it's just a matter of driving up the other end now to catch him. And of course, I'm just going to drive straight up the trench. I know, or did I? No, actually, I didn't drive up the trench. I did the opposite. I went between the buildings, not up the trench. I think he was expecting me to come up the trench. I decided, no, I'm going to go through the buildings area. And I can use the buildings for cover and move up on him. I know it's the M44. He's got 2 kills, so he's quite a good player. But I've got 3 kills, and I'm determined to win the game. It's fairly slow. 40 kilometers an hour is not very quick. But it is very good at low profile shooting. Very difficult for the enemy to see you coming until it's too late for them. And 6 degrees of gun depression isn't that great, but it works. Okay, I'm going to move up through that bush. He should be in the cap area. Where are you? There you are! He's seen me! One round in, he gets a hit. But he's toast now because I'm going to finish him off. And there he goes. That is the end of the game. And I've won. Carried the team. And I've got a Pascucci's as well. Let's have a look at the end of battle stats. And here's the end of battle stats for that game. And you can see it was the first ace tanker for general disturbance in the Jagdpanzer IV. In fact, I haven't had it that long, actually. So I haven't had it that long. I don't think I'd had more than 20 games in it, if that. And, well, yes, fairly good result, you might say. I quickly got up to the 88mm gun because I thought that would be the best gun for the purposes. But obviously I realise now that the 75mm Pak 42 is probably a bit better, actually, with a faster fire rate. I managed to get the first ace tanker, as you can see. I got a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points of my own vehicle. A fighter badge for getting at least 4 kills. I got 4 exactly. A spotter badge for spotting at least 1,000 hit points of damage. A duelist for taking down 2 tanks to damage me. A bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. I managed to get 6. I got a Pascucci's medal. I killed both enemy Arties at the end, the SU-8 and the M44. And because I got the reset on that M44, I also got a defender for getting at least 70 defense points. My win rate for the battle, 4,786, which is super unicum standard. But it was a fairly average game. I was just pleased that I actually managed to do my job properly at the end. And it turned out to be a win. we look at the team score, we can see that I didn't get the highest damage in the game. That actually went to the budgie on the enemy team. Didn't get a high caliber though, because he wasn't 20% of the enemy hit pool. He got 2,213 hit points of damage. The next high scorer being the T-34-100 with 2,120. And in fact, I think I was spotting for him sometimes during that game. He was the one who was getting shots based on my spotting of the enemy tanks in the west. I managed to get, was it 4th place or 5th place? I think it was 5th place actually, because the M44 and the enemy team managed 1,793, their Super Hellcat 1,509, and then I came in at 1,448 after that, but I was the last man standing. When it came to kills, I managed to get the highest number with 4, 3 kills to the T-34-100 and also to the Super Hellcat and the enemy team. And when it came to base XP, yes, I was the only one who got over 1,000 in that game. 1,171 to me, 753 went to the T-34-100 and 717 to the Striv M4257. I think what saved me in that battle was that I didn't go to the hill or onto the hill. I came off it because I felt that I needed to defend the tanks against the tanks that were coming in from the east, and by doing that I ended up with a whole load of spotting, which was very effective at helping my team to whittle the enemy tanks down bit by bit and bring it back to an even par. If we look at the detail report, we can see I fired 21 rounds of 88mm ammunition, got 17 direct hits and 9 penetrations on the enemy. It's not a great gun, the 88. I would recommend the 75 with the PaK-42. It's probably got better penetration, although it's got lower alpha, only 135 as opposed to the 220, but it's much more effective. You're going to penetrate more shots with the 75mm, and of course it's got a much more rapid fire as well. 1,448 hit points of damage, 218 at more than 300 meters. I received 2 hits from the enemy, 1 penetration, and that was the shot from the Super Hellcat that I killed towards the end, and 2 hits by way of splash damage. Yes, the M44 managed to get around near me, and of course so did the I think the SU-8 got around near me as well towards the after I just killed the Super Hellcat. 2 enemy vehicles spotted, 6 enemy vehicles damaged and 4 killed, and 1,962 hit points of spotting assist. And that's what gave me the ace tanker, I think, because I did so much spotting in that game. 90 defense points, that gave me the defender's medal, and 46,641 credits on a premium account, 23,321 for holiday ops. 69,962 credits altogether. After repair and ammunition resupply, I took away 44,570 credits profit. 1,756 XP times 2 for the first victory, took away 3,513 experience points altogether. So the Jagdpanzer, it's not quite as much fun as the Death Toaster, which is actually surprisingly more powerful, because of course that one is at a lower tier. It's a tier 6 tank destroyer, but as I said, it's much better with the 75mm gun than the 88, but it's horses for courses. You might prefer it with the 88 because of a higher alpha damage, but I think the 75mm will be more effective. Just got to remember, don't let the enemy shoot you in that lower plate, because if they do shoot you in the lower plate, it's going to damage your engine because it'll knock out your transmission. Your gearbox is right behind that plate there, and so any shots in that area and you've got a damaged engine. Other than that, it's quite a good tank destroyer because it's low profile. It's a bit like the Stugs in that sense. They didn't build many of these, only 278 built between 1944 and 45. But there are quite a few pictures of Jagdpanzer IVs that were taken out by the Americans and littering the sides of roads. So obviously the Americans had no trouble taking them down, and it's okay in the game. It's not bad. I rather like it as a tank destroyer, but it's horses for courses, just slightly different than the Stug. And as I said, pick the 75mm gun, the PaK-42, the middle gun, and that will give you a good game. So I hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a comment down below because it feeds the algorithm, and thank you for watching.